So, hello. This is a recapitulation on the topic on the goals, standards, and objectives. The very important thing here that you need to remember is that as we progress on these terms, goals, standards, and objectives, the terms becomes more specific. So you have the term goals, standard, objectives. The most specific one is what you refer to as your learning targets. Okay, may tinatawag tayong learning targets. So if you would look at it, future educators, when I talk about goals, your goals are very general. It pertains to the entire program. Let's say, for example, the entire senior high school, the entire junior high school, or the entire grade 9 for that matter. Okay, that's what we meant by goals. No? It refers to the entire program itself. When you talk about standards, your standards refer to a specific year level. Okay, it refers to a specific year level. Let's say, for example, grade 9. And it may also include the specific course or subject. It may include also the specific course or subject. Allow me to erase that. And then when you talk about objectives, your objectives already refer to your specific course or the specific unit or chapter that you will be talking about. And when I talk about the learning targets already refer to the specific lessons. Okay, it already refers to the specific lessons. So if you will be asked, no, kung ano ang goals ng isang program, you try to refer to the Department of Education order. You also try to refer to the CHED memorandum order because there is very high likelihood that the goals of the program are already prescribed there on the DepEd and then the CHED memoranda. The same for your standards. The standards and the objectives could also be discussed and agreed upon by the school wherein you are working. But the learning targets class are usually authored by the teacher. Okay, so class, when you talk about learning target, the learning target is authored by the teacher who is handling the subject. That's why it's referred to as learning target, meaning it's specific to that particular subject, it's specific to that particular lesson. Ayan po yung tinatawag nating learning targets. Now, if you would look at the definition of terms here, when you say goal, as I have mentioned, it's a general statement. Okay, goal is a general statement. Then look at the definition of standard. Standard is becoming specific to a grade level subject or course, as I have mentioned. And then when I talk about your educational objectives, it is the learner's performance at the end of the instructional unit, meaning class 1 unit or 1 chapter that you are talking about. That will be your educational objectives. On the other hand, class, when you talk about learning targets, it's already specific to the lesson that we have, right? Now, when we talk about the taxonomy of objectives, the most common ones that we use is the Bloom's taxonomy. But if you will be asked later on, is it only the Bloom's taxonomy that is the basis? What do you think, class? What do you think? Bloom's taxonomy lang ba ang only basis ng objectives natin? Or are there other taxonomies available to us? What do you think? Students? Sige na. What do you think? Are there other taxonomies available to us or Bloom's taxonomy lang nga? Yes, Jonaline or Rochelle? Micah? No response? Yes, Sapphire. Is it only the Bloom's taxonomy or do we have other taxonomies na? You can use your chat if you could not speak. That will be okay. Sige. Class, Bloom's taxonomy lang nga ba yung ginagamit natin or may ibang taxonomy pa nga ba tayong available? Okay, sige, Sapphire, I can see your response. So it's not only the Bloom's taxonomy. So take note that Bloom's taxonomy is just the most common and widely used, but it is not the only taxonomy available to us. And remember, class, in your Bloom's taxonomy, there are 3 domains here that we're talking about. Your cognitive, your affective, and then your psychomotor. For your cognitive alone, your cognitive has 6 levels now. For your Bloom's taxonomy, your cognitive has already 6 levels. That 6 levels is your K, and then you have your CAAS. Okay, that's why I usually say and I repeatedly say KKs. Okay, for you to memorize the 6 levels for your Bloom's taxonomy. Later on, at around the year 2000, okay, Anderson and colleagues revised these cognitive levels. These cognitive levels, and they introduce the term remembering, understanding, the same for the AA, evaluating and creating. Okay, so this is the Anderson version by 2001. So as you can see, class, the taxonomy is also developing. That's why we are learning how did it develop so that we will be able to understand later on as to how it came to be. Okay? Basta class isipin, pag cognitive, knowledge siya, pag affective, values siya, pag psychomotor, skills-based siya. Bilang isang teacher later on, it is your goal that you should be able to focus in all three of this. Hindi po pwede na sa isang subject mo, cognitive lang yung focus mo. Hindi rin pwede na psychomotor ang focus mo. Hindi din pwede class na sa isang klase mo, puro attitude na lang yung focus mo. Okay, so it needs to be distributed among these three: cognitive, affective, and psychomotor. Now, class, when we talk about affective, the teachers have a tendency that the affective domain is incorporated with the other domains, the knowledge and then the skills. Okay? Okay lang po yun. Ha? And usually, class, in the university level, for example, in our case, you are taught of our core values. Okay? If you can notice, most of the discussions of your instructors would be revolving in the core values that we have, which is your excellence, integrity, character, justice, stewardship. No? So paikot-ikot po yung ating discussion dyan, talimang core values natin. Okay? Now, that's what you need to remember. Ha? So hindi siya class pwede na isa lang yung focus mo, dapat focus ka sa lahat. Now, so this is the one that I mentioned earlier. This is the key case that you need to memorize and familiarize by yourselves. So class, kindly memorize. Memorize in order because class knowledge is different from comprehension. So as application is different from analysis, synthesis is also different from evaluation. So class, in this version of Bloom's taxonomy, the highest one is evaluation. Yung pinakamataas kung nakikita natin dyan is evaluation. But on the revised version by Anderson and Pulig's class, the highest level class is your creation. Okay, the highest level class is creation. Okay? So may mga difference lang naman, pero the idea is almost the same. So class, while you are studying your lessons, I would advocate that you will try to familiarize, okay, and memorize also the description that they have, and then the illustrative verbs here. Since we are learning education, we are learning how to educate. Guys, you need to understand that these illustrative verbs here are just starters. No? They are just starters. So it does not mean that all the time, pag nakita nyo yung recall, knowledge ka agad. Pero for the purpose of studying this and learning this first, try to remember that if you would want to assess the knowledge of the students, okay, or if you would want the knowledge of the students to be enhanced, one of your objectives will be the learners will be able to recall the stars in the northern hemisphere. Okay, that's one example of an objective that you can have for your lesson. Okay, or the students will be able to enumerate the steps of the process, okay, the steps of water processing, halimbawa. Okay, that's an example of your knowledge. So class, as you go along here, okay, as you go along the case that I have mentioned, you will realize that you are moving from raw knowledge, going towards knowledge that are being applied and are being synthesized. Kumbaga, class, dito in the knowledge in level 1, you just memorize. In the evaluate class, no, in the evaluate, which is the E here, in the evaluate class, you already critic, you already judge if what is applicable and what is not. Okay? So kumbaga, parang uma-advance yung knowledge natin. So try to memorize and try to pick up words here that could help you on the description and then the illustrative words. So class, the keyword naman that you have for the comprehension is understanding. Okay? Madali din naman yung tandaan kasi kapag babalik ka sa K-case, at saka class doon sa RUAAEC, plus the comprehension here in the older version became understanding on the newer version. So comprehension, understanding. Okay? Pagkatapos class, the next level is what you refer to as your application. So class, application, ina-apply mo siya. Okay? Class, the keyword here is specific, concrete situations. Okay? You apply it on specific, concrete situations. Whereas class on analysis, ang iisipin nyo naman sa analysis is that it's from big to small. When I talk about analysis class, it's from big idea to small. Kung kaya nakikita nyo separation of a concept into parts, yan po yung ginagawa sa analysis. Kumbaga, for example, if you're studying a certain illness, let's say for example, you are teaching your students about chickenpox, no? Biology, for example, if you will discuss chickenpox, Now, if you would want analysis, you ask your students, what are the causes of chickenpox? Okay? Who are the people at risk of having chickenpox? Okay? What are the medications for chickenpox? You are making them analyze. Kung baga, paano nagka-chickenpox ang isang tao? Paano mako-cure yung chickenpox? That is analysis. But in your synthesis naman, okay, which is the next one here, class, in your synthesis, you construct elements class from different sources to form a complex or novel structure. So what do? Concept A, concept B, concept C, you combine them to make a novel structure. That is what's happening in your synthesis. So kumbaga, in analysis, parang breakdown siya. In synthesis naman class, pagsama-sama nilang lahat. Okay? That's the way for your synthesis. And for your evaluation, as the term would imply, you are evaluating. So when you are evaluating, you make judgment of ideas or methods based on sound established criteria. And those ideas, class, example, pinapa-appraise. Halimbawa, sasabihan kita, oy, Jonalyn, i-appraise mo nga yung performance ni Jessie dun sa kanyang oration. Okay? Jonalyn, what can you say about the performance of Jessie on her oration? Right there and then, I am trying to appraise. I am trying to make Jonalyn appraise or evaluate the performance of Jessie. Okay? I'm trying to develop the evaluation level when it comes to Jonalyn. Okay? Kumbaga class, no, di ba na-notice nyo, minsan may mga activities, ay naalala nyo nung high school kayo, or kahit ngayong college kayo, there are activities wherein your professor would ask you to evaluate also the performance of your classmate. The purpose of that class is to develop the evaluation level. Okay? Then, plus you can see, this is the continuum from knowledge comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. Tapos kung nakikita nyo yung label dyan, students, may lower order thinking skills tayo, tapos may higher order thinking skills tayo. Ito po guys yung higher order thinking skills. Ito po naman yung lower order thinking skills. So I would like to repeat that when you are making assessment, my dear students and fellow educators later on, so when you are making your assessments, you need to make sure that there is a combination of your lower order thinking and higher order thinking skills. Ano pong ibig sabihin? So hindi po pwede na ang exam ko sa inyo, for example, what is the meaning of acidering? What is the meaning of measurement? Okay, what is testing? What is knowledge? What is comprehension? Hindi po pwedeng ganon. Or for example, I will say, what is the cognitive level that means comprehending? So, di ba, pag sabi kong comprehension, understanding yon, no? Or vice versa. So, hindi class pwedeng parang identification na lang lahat. Hindi pwede na true or false ng lahat. Dapat class may mga application questions akong gagamitin. So, how do I do that? No? For example, in your exams, you will encounter na there is a problematic student. And the problematic student could not focus in class. What type of assessment will you be using? So is it formative nga ba? Summative nga ba? Diagnostic nga ba? Or placement assessment? So class, because we would want to see applications and analysis also on your examination. Or for example, I will give you a situation. Teacher Erwin gave the students this requirement. What can you say about the requirement of Teacher Erwin? So pwede mong sabihin that the requirement is, kay tama, mali nga ba yung requirement niya, kulang nga ba yung requirement niya, or mali yung assessment na nagawa niya. Right there and then, I am asking you to evaluate Teacher Erwin. Okay? So kapag gumagawa tayo ng exam, hindi siya pwede na lahat true or false na lang. Di ba class, kung kayo nga siguro yung nagsasabi, kadalasan naririnig ko sa students sasabihin na, uy, ang exam natin napaka-objective. O yung exam natin puro talaga memorize. Okay? Plus, you don't want to hear that from your students. If you are hearing that from your students, that means, class, that you are only using lower order thinking skills. Okay? So dapat po, we are promoting the use of higher order thinking skills for critical thinking. Eh sir, paano po malalaman yung hati-hati? So class, pwedeng 50%, 50%. Pwede class 40% yung LOTS, pwede din class na 60% yung HOTS. Halimbawa, pag 100 items yung exam, 40 items lower order, 60 items higher order thinking skills. Pero take note, saan mo i-base ang percentage na yan? Kahit anong combination man yan, class, kahit 30 man yan, 70 man to, or pwede din naman 70 yung lots, tapos 30 yung hots. Okay? So class, okay lang yan, basta as long as it is based on the desired outcomes of the subject. Okay, ano nga ba ang outcomes ng subject mo? Okay? So halimbawa class, if you're teaching biology, no, the early biology, let's say for example, grade 7 biology, kadalasan sa grade 7 biology, you will just encounter terms. Diba? Terms. No? Kadalasan, introduce the terms ang ginagawa sa grade 7 biology. So okay, 80% ng exam mo will be LOTS, 20% of your exam will be HOTS. Pero kapag ang student mo halimbawa grade 10 na, okay, grade 10 na for example, pagkatapos yung exam ni teacher X, 100% LOTS. So paano nagkaganon, di ba? Saan napunta yung HOTS? Kasi grade 10 na sila. You're expecting that they already have a lot of background knowledge that they can use for them to process and to critically think. So hindi pa pwede that by grade 10, wala kang mga HOTS. Okay? So class, saan po mabibase yung percentage na sinasabi ni sir? Wala pong fixed na rate as long as it is based on the outcomes that you will be teaching your students. Or the outcomes, I mean, that your students need to attain by the end of your subject. Okay? Yan po yung magiging basehan natin. Okay. Now class, this is the revised. No? Look at the revised. So remembering for knowledge. Okay, for the comprehension, it is understanding. Apply is still apply. Analysis is still analysis. But if you can notice, class, evaluating is already here. No? Pagkatapos, class, may na-introduce na bago, which is creating. Okay, so pagtatanungin kayo, what is the highest in the cognitive level? On the revised class, it's creating. Pero class sa luma, it's evaluating. Sir, paano kung hindi sinabi kung revised or new? Tapos yung tanong lang, what is the highest? The class creating yung isagot ninyo. Okay, creating yung highest kapag nandyan po silang lahat sa choices. Okay, I'm not talking of our exam alone, but I'm also talking of the board examinations. So dapat ngayon pa lang, kahit mag-break pa kayo ng boyfriend mo, kahit madapa ka pa, dapat memorize mo yung K-case at saka yung RUAA pagkatapos si sir nakalimutan, easy. Kay RUAAEC. Dapat memorize natin yan. Okay? Now, class, this is the difference between your lower order thinking and higher order thinking. So try to differentiate them and try to review that one. So, okay? Now, I would like to go to the two-dimensional approach. Nung nag-revise class si Anderson at saka ang kasamahan niya, the two-dimensional approach class refers to the inclusion of the cognitive process and then the knowledge dimension. Class, pag sinabi ko pong cognitive process, ito po yung example niya. Okay, class, this is the cognitive process. Differentiate. Okay? If the objective states that students will be able to differentiate qualitative and quantitative research, plus the cognitive process is the differentiate. That's the cognitive process. Pagkatapos guys, ano naman yung conceptual natin dito? The conceptual dimension class is the topic that we are talking. Okay, the conceptual dimension is the topic that we are talking. It is the noun class kumbaga in that sentence. It is the focus in that sentence. Okay, so class, that's the purpose of your two-dimensional approach. Now, doon sa two-dimensional approach natin, students, dapat nating alamin na dito class sa cognitive process, may 6 po tayo dyan. Okay? That goes back to your RUAAEC. Okay, you're remembering, you're understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, pagkatapos creating. Dito naman class sa type of knowledge, may 4 din tayong type ng knowledge. The 4 types of knowledge is your factual, conceptual, procedural, and your metacognitive. So try to memorize FCPM. Sir, multiple choice naman ang exam mo. Bakit kailangan mag-memorize? Class, you will know that even if it's just multiple choice, you will be able to assess the mastery of the students. So memorize that, FCPM. Okay? So class, review the definition of the 6 levels of the cognitive process. And then also try class to review the 4 types of knowledge dimension. Okay, so yan po yung 4. Again class, ito RUAAEC at saka FCPM po natin. Pagkatapos, dear students, you have the term learning targets. For your learning targets naman, sabi ko kanina, it is the most specific. Yan po yung pinaka-specific sa lahat. Bakit po siya naging specific? As you can see, look at the example statement. The example statement class is stated on the learner's point of view. Kaya nga class sinasabi, I can. Okay, I can. Kanina sa objectives, sinasabi ng teacher, the learner will be able to. Pero class, when we talk about learning targets, okay, we write it in such a way that you will say, I can. The learners will be able to develop the following. Number 1, I can draw an isometric drawing. Number 2, I can identify the parts of the flower. Number 3, I can understand the anatomy of the neurologic system. Okay? So yan po sa learning targets para ma-feel ng learner na okay, ako pala yung nagle-learn, hindi po pala si teacher. Okay? That's the importance of your learning targets. And for your learning targets naman class, there are 4 types of your learning targets. You have your K, you have your R, you have your S, and then you have your P. Class, K is knowledge, R is reasoning, S class is skills, and P is product. May nadagdag po tayong A4 po pero may nadagdag na isa. According to other authors kasi, there is the 5th type which is affective. Okay, may 5th type daw na affective. Okay? Pero the 4 primary types is your KRSP. Now, let's look at these types of assessment. As teachers kasi, di ba, goal natin na i-develop lahat. Knowledge, reasoning, skills, at saka product when it comes to our students. Now, when we would want to develop the knowledge, guys, look at this, no? All the paper and pencil tests that we are using can actually develop knowledge. Okay? Yung multiple choice, yung trolls, yung matching type, short answer, problem-solving essay, they can all develop the knowledge. But look at that, they do not develop the product. Hindi po sila nagde-develop ng product. And remember that in the outcomes-based education, one of our goals is your authentic assessment. At di ba class, pag sinabi kong authentic assessment, ano nga yung keyword natin sa authentic assessment? What type of assessment? They are geared towards blank applications. Ano po yun sa authentic assessment? Anybody? When I say authentic assessment, what type of applications are we talking here? Yes? I'm expecting an answer starting with letter R.
Real world,
Okay.
sir.
Good. Very
Real
good.
life.
No? Real world, real life applications. Yun po yung gusto natin kay authentic assessment. That's why guys, may mga product tayo at skills na tinitingnan. Okay? Skills and product are considered to be higher levels of learning targets compared to your knowledge and reasoning. So as you can see, medyo mahina pala yung multiple choice, trolls, matching type, medyo mahina sila sa skills and product. And with that, other types of assessment are being recommended. Okay? So these are other types of assessment. So class, for example, you have your project-based assessment. You have your portfolio. You have your recitation, and then you have your observation. So sa project, halimbawa, if our course class is biology, as my example would go, maybe I would want my students to create a small ecosystem. That way, they will be able to apply the concepts in biology in preparing a small ecosystem. Plus, pag sinabi kong small ecosystem, yung ecosystem ba na parang may plant, tapos may mga animals, doon sa isang bote class, no? Kaya in a bottle, for example, of wine or in a bottle of whiskey, an empty bottle, and then class, you would ask the students to make a small ecosystem there. So that could be the end project for the students. Like class, you would want product. For example, if you're talking about economics, and then I will ask my student to present something that has been recycled, okay, that was recycled, I am making a product. No? I am asking them to create a product. And that product class allows for a higher type of learning target. So kung nakikita nyo, that's why mahilig magpa-portfolio tayong mga teachers. No? Okay? Pagkatapos class, recitation and observation is already a low. No? Low siya in product and skills. But they can also trigger knowledge and reason. Okay? I would urge you to please familiarize this table, not only for the purpose of your examination, but also for the purpose of teaching your students later on in the future. That you will know that sa isang klase ko, hindi pwede that for the entire SEM, puro na lang ako multiple choice. Hindi din class pwede that for the entire SEM, project ka lang. Kasi class, di ba, hindi pwede na produkto lang yung i-develop. Dapat i-develop natin yung knowledge, develop natin ang reasoning, develop natin ang skills bago po tayo sa produkto. Okay? So again, we are into whole child education. We are into holistic education. So we should be able to teach them, or we should be able to administer assessment that is able to capture all of this. Okay? This table may be small and simple, but familiarizing it would go far in your teaching profession. Okay? You have any questions so far?